Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on this Wednesday night, September the 25th. Thanks for hanging out here with us on the A to Z Sports live stream network. Brian Callahan continues to back Will Levis as QB1. Whether that is the right decision or the wrong decision is the discussion that we are going to have tonight. We are also going to stick with the quarterback theme and discuss which quarterback you would rather face if you're a Titans fan, whether it is Skylar Thompson or Snoop Huntley, also an option for Miami, a player that's been on their practice squad and certainly has had some level of success as an NFL backup quarterback before. It is going to be an interesting game on Monday Night Football. I'm flying down to Miami on Sunday morning. And of course, we'll do primetime from Miami on Sunday. And then there will be no primetime on Monday because obviously I'll be doing the game. Normally, Sam does Tuesdays now because Tuesdays are my new nights off. But since there's a football game on Monday night, you guys are stuck with me on Tuesday. I know that you guys have been enjoying Sam. I'm very happy to hear that. I'm glad that is that you guys are, vibing the way that it seems really good at this. So I'm happy to hear that is in fact the case, and which is great for me because I'm enjoying my Tuesday nights off.
We almost prefer him.
Robert prefers him because Sam's nice and I'm not nice. Too bad. You're stuck with me on Tuesday night. You got to deal with it anyway. So before we get into the quarterback discussion, we need you guys to share this show on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch, wherever you're hanging out with us. We appreciate your participation. Retweet the show in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. If you're on Facebook Live, you can share now to public. That's in the bottom left. If you're on YouTube or Twitch, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and tell a friend to do the same while you're there. Amar says, or rather Eric says, isn't a hurricane going to pass through Miami during the game? No, I checked it. And listen, the Weather Channel app is probably the most accurate based on, the Apple weather app is a complete trash. But I don't know if you guys will be able to see this, where, in fact, Nashville is more in the direct path of this hurricane than Miami is. Ironically enough, if you see that, I'm doing my best Weather Channel impression. If you see that little gray dot right there, that's Miami. And then, of course, that is the path of the hurricane. And that blue dot up there is Nashville. So Nashville is directly in the path of this thing. Miami is going to get some rain, but not expected to be in the path of this hurricane. So fortunately, now, here's what I will say. Next week, I'm off because it's the bye week. And if there is a hurricane that disrupts my beach vacation, I am going to be very, very upset because I didn't want to take a bye week in week 5. I didn't want to take a vacation in week 5 until I realized that I'm dealing with a terrible football team. And now I want a vacation very, very badly. And the hurricane doesn't have shit on me if they ruin my beach vacation is all I'm going to say. But we don't have to talk about that. That's next week. And we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Tonight, we're talking quarterbacks, and we're talking Titans and Dolphins. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time from the Zen Sports Studios. I'm your host, Buck Rising. I'm proud, as always, to be presented to you by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. Go to Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com for more information. By the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. Don't sell without the intel that the Ashton team can provide. Go to GaryAshton.com for more information. By Zen Sports, the Zen Sports app, promo code ATOZTN gets you in on all the action. No workout, or rather, terms and conditions do apply. Gambling problem, call the Tennessee Red Line, 1-800-889-9789 at Zen Sports. So, with everything that's happening around the Titans right now, quarterback is a question for both teams. Miami and Tua situation, very, very scary. Fortunate for him that he is going to be able to take the time that he needs to take. He's on injured reserve. He's meeting with a neurologist to try and ensure that this player can, adequately protect himself. Dealing with concussions is such a frightening thing, especially when you've had a recurrence of concussions the way that this particular player has, and he's already had a really difficult time with the injury stuff. B. Friend says, all hell, Buck, take this year off, by gosh, given that the bad football team is a struggle. Eric Alonso says bad football team or bad quarterback and right tackle. No, they're 0-3. They're a bad football team. Like that's you are not going to you're not going to try and sell me on the argument that listen, I wouldn't say that they're not that they're not talented, but talent does not necessarily mean that they're a good team. So no, you are not going to sit here and try and have the argument with me that no, they're actually a good football team. They've just got a bad quarterback and a right tackle. Got a bad quarterback, you're a bad football team. These are the rules. I don't make the rules. This is just how these things go. This is just how these things go is what I'm trying poorly to say. Karen Davis says, Buck, if you're going to 30A, the hurricane might mess up your beach vacation. Oh, don't give me those vibes, Karen. I am going to 30A. I'm not very happy about that. Don't do that to me. Anyway, Benjamin Buck says NPF is not talented. No, I would not accuse. Well, no, you know what? Here's the thing. Nick Petit-Frere was one of the highest rated prospects in his year as a high school recruit. He was one of the highest profile college tackles that came out. He's a third-round draft pick, so it's not like the guy lacks talent, but he's not putting it together. They think the issues that he has are imminently fixable. I have yet to see the product of those fixes, so we will see how much further this goes along. Derek says 14-3, here we come. That would be an unthinkable turnaround. So, you can start that in Miami, but you first have to get a win, because if this team goes 0-4, I'm going to stick a fork in them and say that they already are teetering on life support. But if this team goes 0-4 through the first 4 games of the season, heading into a bye week, then yeah, you can stick a fork in them and be done. Clayton says best 0-3 team in the league. No, that's not true. That's the Bengals with Joe Burrow, because they have the better quarterback. Joe Burrow is not playing bad football. His defense is betraying him, absolutely betraying him. They are undermining him at every turn. They let a rookie quarterback have a career day as far as rookies go. Statistically, for a road performance for the rookie, no, the Bengals are definitely the best 0-3 team right now. I don't think you're the worst 0-3 team. The Jags are worse than you are right now, which is pretty tough to imagine. Benjamin says Levis is going to get his ass kicked on Monday night. Well, we don't know that, which is why we are. And listen, that may well be true, but he can get his ass kicked and not turn the ball over, right? Like not that anybody wants to see him get his ass kicked, but like he can get his ass kicked as long as he hangs on to the football. Like every quarterback is going to take hits. The hits are not what overwhelmingly bother me. The fact that he's under as much duress makes it much harder on him to play the quarterback position, but he has to protect the football whether he's getting his shit rocked or not. That's the only way that they're going to be able to pull this thing off. So the question that I'm going to ask you is this, because Brian Callahan has consistently stuck by the side of his quarterback, and I respect that. That's what he's got to work with right now. And, he doesn't have to be thoroughly committed to Will Levis the way that he has been, but he has been. So do you agree or disagree with Brian Callahan sticking with Will Levis heading into week 4? Now, it may be a different story if Levis struggles again and they have a bye week to potentially correct and adjust the situation. But do you agree or disagree with your head coach's decision to stick with, I almost said Ryan Tannehill, Freudian slip, to stick with Will Levis at this point? We'll discuss at length together. You'll hear from Will Levis, who spoke today, right after I remind you that the Primetime program is made possible, as is your Two Rivers Ford Take, by the South's most trusted Ford dealer, Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet. They are the best in the business. There is no disputing that Two Rivers Ford goes above and beyond to make sure that you have the best customer service out there. In fact, their customer service is so good, they win awards for it. They have been in business in Middle Tennessee for over 40 years because they do business the right way. No matter how you like to shop, Two Rivers Ford always makes the car buying process fast, easy, and fun. Go to Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com for more information. You agree or disagree with Will Levis, with Brian Callahan sticking with Will Levis for the time being? G on YouTube, 100% agree. John says yes, but he's on think ice. He means thin ice, of course. Kicks Good says agree for one more game. Of course, this is a very important game. This is going to be this is the only national televised opportunity that you have to show that you are not the football team of the first 3 weeks, that you can be something better, that you can be something more. Now, I do think that this is going to be the lowest rated Monday Night Football game in the history of Monday Night Football, because the Detroit-Seattle game is the second. They're staggering them again, right? So the Monday Night Football game between the Titans and Dolphins is going to kick off first, and then they'll have the Seahawks-Lions game kick off, which is probably going to be the more watchable football game. If you just had to project, both teams have had they've played a handful of times in the past 4 years, 4 or 5 years, and they have had 300 passing yard performances from both quarterbacks in each of like the last 4 meetings. It's that should be a more entertaining game. And if they play poorly, the Titans do, then at least you have the opportunity for people to change the channel and not witness continued embarrassment. One last game, says Tom Wishall on YouTube. One last game, 50% agree. So he's sitting on the fence with the coach's decision to stick with the quarterback. So let's hear from Will Levis, because he was asked a question about the support that Brian Callahan has been giving him, and I thought that the answer was good. We'll hear from Will Levis here in just a second, right after I remind you that Primetime is made possible by the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. Go to GaryAshton.com, get your dream address without the stress, get the intel edge you need to succeed from the official real estate agent of the Nashville Predators, who are getting ready to kick things back up again. Here's Will Levis at the podium today.
The noise, trying to drown some of that out and remain patient with this group. I guess for a quarterback, how helpful is it to have a coach that hasn't hesitated to have your back and remain patient with you through 3 weeks of some growing pains here?
That means a lot. Yeah, it definitely does. I know he's got my back and I got his, and we're in this together. And I only go as far as he goes, and vice versa. So I feel like we got a great relationship in that respect. But I just got to keep doing what I can to be the best quarterback I can be for him on game days. And I know that he's working his tail off to continue to improve as a head coach and a play caller. And we've already made a lot of great strides in that area in our dynamic throughout the past few weeks. Thank you, guys.
All right, so that's Will Levis at the podium today. Let me first start by saying I go as far as he goes. So he's talking about Brian Callahan. So Will Levis is saying, I go as far as Brian Callahan goes. And then he said vice versa, which objectively is a wild quote. Brian Callahan is not married to that quarterback at all beyond this season, and he's under contract theoretically for 2 more seasons after that. But and listen, I'm not gonna like tear Will Levis apart for saying for not being aware in that moment. But the reality of the situation is I think Will is going to be okay. I really don't think it's going to be an outright disaster, even though the first 3 weeks have felt very, very disastrous. But if I'm Brian Callahan and I hear that, my response is bullshit. If you think I'm hitching my job viability to you, my brother, you are crazy if you think that I am tied to you in the same way that you were tied to me. No, Will Levis is infinitely more dependent on Brian Callahan right now than Brian Callahan is on Will Levis. Now, I will say that you brought in this person to fix the quarterback situation. If the quarterback situation doesn't improve, then there is going to be some scrutiny on Brian Callahan as well. But with all of this that's happening right now, it is pretty crazy quote. The only person who has any kind of attachment, the only person that's going to be held to account if Will Levis, other than Will Levis, if Will Levis flops, is Rand Carthon. Rand Carthon is the last remaining vestige of people who had involvement in drafting Will Levis. So if Will Levis goes belly up, I'm not looking at Callahan. I'm looking at Carthon first and foremost. But that objectively was a wild quote. Now, am I going to kill him for it? No, because I understand what he's saying. Vice versa is just kind of like, I'm sure he didn't think about it. Think about people reading into it the way that people are going to read into every word that he says. But that's just the nature of the quarterback position. Everybody's going to read into what you say too much. Major Key says Levis is a cocky, egotistical, jar-headed jock type of guy. That's why Sam loves him, because he has that jarhead jock type of personality. I mean, I don't really get that vibe from Will Levis in in settings that, in a game when he's screaming and red-faced and he's a jock, like he's supposed to be a jock. That's the whole thing. You don't want a quarterback that's not a jock, I guess, not to pigeonhole him in. But I like Levis fine. I think the decision making is very, very questionable, and of course that could be his undoing at the quarterback position. But I'm not like, I'm not saying that Will Levis is going to be great. I think that it's going to be okay. I think that it's going to be okay. Jack Tripper says Rand can just blame him on Vrabel collaboration season. Nobody's going to give a shit. Listen, if Rand Carthon, again, hypothetical, because we need to talk about what the quarterback said. A hypothetical here. If Levis flops, okay, Mike Vrabel's relevance with this organization is no longer, other than they're paying him for the next 2 seasons. Mike, I think, is getting 20 over 2 to go away and basically, take a cushy job in Cleveland, where they're not having much more success either. Its defense looks fine, but Deshaun Watson continues to just undermine them at every turn. Yeah, Rand Carthon can't blame Mike Vrabel. It's got nothing to do with collaboration, because that person is gone. So if Rand Carthon is still here and Will Levis flops, I'm not going to give a shit about Mike Vrabel or anything else, because Rand Carthon is the person that's here, and Rand Carthon was the general manager when he was drafted. So absolutely, the emphasis is going to be on Rand Carthon. Q says, Buck, I'm sorry, but when is the install? And where do I view it? I keep catching it a week behind. Here's the deal, Q, because I do need to make sure that that reminds me that I need to say it on the radio show too. We moved the install taping time because Brian Callahan's practices are different than Mike Vrabel's schedule. So now we're going to tape tomorrow morning at 8:15 a.m. and that will be up. I mean, it usually takes us about a half hour to record. So I would expect that to be up on YouTube, on 104.5 The Zone's YouTube channel, by no later than 10 a.m. I would imagine. And here's what I'll say, Q, because I talked to Greg about this, because I'm a Titans reporter. I work for the Titans radio flagship. Obviously, I cover the Titans for A to Z and 104.5 The Zone. So there's a lot of Titans-centric discussion on the install. But Greg and I had this discussion today. If they keep losing, we're probably not going to talk about them as much. Like, I've got the executive producer and lead analyst of NFL Films. I'm not going to waste his time with an 0-4 football team. And Greg and I are kind of in agreement on that. So it's probably going to pivot into more of an NFL show if they keep this up. Because I'm not going to make Greg talk until draft season. I'm not going to make Greg talk about one of the worst football teams in the league. So yeah, if you like Greg Cosell's analysis of the Titans and his insights there, then you better hope they get a win here soon. Because like I said, I'm not letting the sad boy football team infect everything that I do on a weekly basis, nor am I going to saddle Greg with that either. So we will see how that plays itself out, because I will tell you that we're talking as much Seahawks-Lions tomorrow as we are Titans-Dolphins, because obviously that's the better game. Anyway, so do I agree or disagree with Brian Callahan's decision to stick with Will Levis through the first couple of continuing to stick with Will Levis up into the Miami game? Curtis C says, not sad boy. Well, no, it's not sad boy, B-O-Y. It's sad boy, B-O-I. That's how I say sad boy. Sad boy football team, sad boy radio, sad boy primetime, B-O-I, not B-O-Y. Anyway, so do I agree with the decision by the coach to stick with the quarterback for now? Yeah, I do. I genuinely do. There is certainly, out of the last game, I'm not bearing Will Levis. The pick six was bad, but it was a good play by Jair Alexander. If you go and look, Kurt Warner had a really good the former Arizona Cardinals quarterback, the Hall of Famer Kurt Warner, who's of course on NFL Network now and doing games for Westwood One. I think he has the game for Westwood One with Kevin Harlan on Monday night. So I was watching a Kurt Warner film breakdown of the pick six, and Jair Alexander. Normally, DeAndre Hopkins. Here's the thing about Hop, because there's a lot of hand wringing over. Well, I'll tell you the thing about Hop here in just a second. But long story short, Levis threw a pick six. Levis is going to be held to account for the pick six. The pick six was a better play by Jair Alexander than it was a bad play by Will Levis. I thought that the explanation of that was really, really well done. I'm also not going to bury Will Levis for the interception at the end of the game. He's just trying to make a play. I'm also not going to kill him for the fumble, because I'm going to kill NPF for that. NPF is the one who got absolutely murdered by number 55 for the Packers and caused that strip sack at the end of the game. So Green Bay was not the reason to bench Will Levis. Chicago arguably would be the reason to bench Will Levis, and we're 2 games removed from that. So I don't think there's sufficient evidence there to bench him. Could that change after the Miami game, depending on how he performs? Absolutely. But this entire season, like I told you, my expectations were not that you were a playoff team. No, my expectations are for you to be in the hunt graphic with all the money that you spent and all the changes that you made. You should be a more meaningfully competitive football team. To date, they are not a more meaningfully competitive football team. So through 3 weeks, that experiment has failed. Doesn't mean it's a failure. No, you have 14 more opportunities to look like a professional sports organization once again. But Levis, this season is not about winning the Super Bowl. This season is not about, winning the AFC South, even though you want to. I understand that you want to. This season is about assessing Will Levis. And that's all it is. That's all it is. It's, win, lose, tie, what pick sixes, turnover differential, all of it. It's all about Will Levis. So you can't bail on the experiment 3 weeks in. If you're going to bail on it, you wait until at least the bye. And again, the performance against the Jets and the performance against Green Bay are not enough for me to say, yeah, that quarterback can't play. Benjamin on YouTube says, how do you get a good assessment with him getting the crap beat out of him? Well, some of the sacks are on him. Like, not all 8 sacks are on NPF, right? Even though you want to blame him for them. And not all 8 sacks are on Peter Skoronski, who allowed the most pressures. All 8 sacks aren't on Dylan Radins. Probably 2 of the 8 are on Levis because he doesn't have good pocket awareness. So I can evaluate Will Levis and his pocket presence perfectly fine when he's got a bad pocket because he's working out of bad pockets all the time. Now, is it going to be a stunted evaluation? Of course it is. That it's not fair to pin him for all of the struggles that they're having right now. But he doesn't have a good feel in the pocket. And that's something that's been the case with him since college. That's not something that's gotten better since he's been in the NFL. I understand that he's been under duress and it would be near impossible. But the vast majority of quarterbacks, sack rate is up through the roof right now, by the way. Let me read you let me read you this tweet from Seth Walder. Then I'll get to the DeAndre Hopkins thing that I mentioned because I don't want to leave too many loose ends tonight. A to Z Sports Prime Time is presented by Zen Sports. Download the app, plug in the promo code ATOZTN. Get up to $100 on your no danger first wager. Terms and conditions do apply. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line 1-800-889-9789. Must be 21 plus and in the state of Tennessee to bet at Zen Sports. So here's the tweet from Seth Walder, who is one of ESPN's lead analytics experts. League-wide sack rates through the first 3 weeks of an NFL season. So this is the last 5 years. In 2020, it was 5.9%. In 2021, 6%. In 2022, 6.1%. In 2023, 6.5%. In 2024, 7.6%. A massive jump. So, offensive line play around the league is down. Quarterback as a product of offensive line play around the league being down, as is quarterback play. You see scoring suffering because of it. You see yardage totals suffering because of it. And also defenses are playing good football right now, which, by the way, I'm happy to see because it's been so stunted or slanted in favor of the offense that defenses haven't really been given a chance. The rules are slanted against the defense. The style of play has obviously required the defense to do some adjusting, and the defense has since adjusted, to their credit. So you're glad to what. Maybe you're not glad to see that if you like scoring, but I'm glad to see it even out a little bit. I don't need it to be a track meet every time 2 teams play in the NFL. I like to see good defense played from time to time. With all of that said, how can I evaluate Will Levis when he's under this much pressure? That's just what it is. Like, that's life in the NFL. It doesn't have to be fair. If the evaluation of Will Levis is that he cannot sustain behind this offensive line, then yeah, you can ride out his rookie quarterback contract and prepare yourself for moving on from him inevitably. But this year is the most important year for Will Levis, bar none. As far as his future viability here, this year is the year. So if you don't come away definitively knowing that he is the guy that can manage the situation, and right now we don't. If anything, he has worked actively against his own case because the protection has nothing to do with his decision. It has some to do with his decision making, but also, like, there's plenty of moments where I'd rather him just take the sack instead of making the dipshit play, right? And if the maniac stuff continues to be a part of it, I can evaluate that fine without having him bind a perfect offensive line situation. I can evaluate that part of his game fine, and that is not something that I can tolerate if I'm an NFL franchise looking at a quarterback like that and saying, no, I cannot deal with these maniac decisions. They're going to kill you. They have killed you. He has the most turnovers of any quarterback through the first 3 games. He has the most turnovers of any quarterback since 2021 through the first 3 weeks. Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson are not 2 players that you want to be mentioned with. All right. So Will Levis and his situation are pretty interesting to see how they've all played out. And a part of this, by the way, speaking of the evaluation, is how he bounces back from mistakes. This was Will Levis at the podium today, talking about the pick 6, for example, and how it's tough to not let that get in your head when you've thrown an interception that way and you're just trying to protect the football at that point.
The thought that maybe if a quarterback makes a mistake or two, sometimes there's hesitation or perhaps second guessing. Have you found that to be the case? No.
Sometimes, like when you throw a pick 6 on a hitch, you might hesitate the next time you try to throw one. I think I tried to throw one later in the game and I kind of like double clutched it, but it's just kind of a matter of trusting what you're seeing, and even though something might have happened in the last play or the last drive that might not have gone the right way, just trusting that you've been seeing these things, you're ready, and that you're just going to react to what you see. So yeah, it's tough going back out there after throwing a pick 6 on like an opening play like that, but just try not to let it get into your mind and just see things or let it develop how you see it.
You look at a lot of your scoring drives, like it's the first, second, or third drive when you guys are scoring another game. I don't know if it's still a part of the script or not, but if it is, like what can you guys do to pull that success from the scripted plays to the duration of the game?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it might be. I think obviously guys are geared up for that, scripted plays we have to open games, and they know like, hey, I got a really good chance of getting the ball here. I know I got to be on this assignment. These are the couple of looks that I'm really keyed in for on these plays. Like I'm going to be ready for them. And maybe it's just on us as just a whole group to study a little harder and know like once those 10 plays are gone, we still got the however other many plays on the call sheet that still got to come off, or hopefully that we're able to come off, and you got to be just as dialed for those as you are for the ones that we're going to open with. So yeah, just he's continued to preach to us to keep finding things to add to our preparation routine, and obviously what we're doing isn't getting it done, so we're going to try to find a couple things here and there, studying wise or body wise, to get us ready. And I definitely think that all of us can benefit from just a little bit of extra preparation.
Will Levis speaking at the podium earlier today. I see Mr. Jones saying Vrabel was the glue holding the Titans together. I don't agree with that, because I know for a fact that there were plenty of players in that locker room last year that checked out on Mike. And it's hard when you're having the struggles that you do and the players are bad and there's no corrections in sight. And I do think, here's what I will say. Mike Vrabel had a better team at the start of his tenure here than did Brian Callahan. Brian Callahan has a more talented collection of football players, but they are not yet a good team. And those two things are different. Now, Vrabel was absolutely a galvanizing force. I can't envision a situation, because Mike winning 6 games with last year's roster, honestly, is a testament to Mike being a good coach. I know most of you don't want to hear that, or most of you don't care. And I get it. And it doesn't matter now, because that's over and that season is done and Mike Vrabel's not the coach anymore, or what have you. But yeah, there's Mike Vrabel winning 6 games last year, like Brian Callahan losing the first 3 games of the season with a more talented collection of football players is just, indicative of this being Brian Callahan's first job as an NFL head coach. Situations he's ready for, situations that he's not ready for. All these Vrabel was part of the problem by the end, says Kick's good. I don't disagree with that, but I think a lot of people wanted him in their heads after they fired him to be the problem, right? To be the biggest problem. And once we get rid of this, we'll move on and we'll see better football, higher scoring football. No longer will it be 17 points per game. And then, of course, you're scoring 1.5 per game less than you were under Todd Downing and Tim Kelly, which is just a smack in the face to Titans fans. So I do think that there's a lot of this stuff. Mike Vrabel does not go 0-3 in this situation. I know that's just an easy thing for me to say because it's a hypothetical and it doesn't matter, but he never did, and neither did Ken Wisenhunt, though, and that didn't make Ken Wisenhunt a good coach, right? Ken Wisenhunt never started a season 0-3. I've listed you that stat before. Munchak, Wiz, Malarkey, and Vrabel, 4 of the 6 coaches in the Titans era of football, none of them started 0-3 to start a season. So again, it's revisionist history. It doesn't ultimately matter, but there are Puka says Vrabel was my boy. Yeah, I had a lot of love for Mike. Never shied away from that. Never disputed that. That's somebody who was really, really good to me during his tenure here. I enjoyed working with him. I enjoyed covering him. I didn't necessarily disagree with him getting fired. It did surprise me, but once you learn more about the things that led to his firing, it just, it comes down to, at the end of the day, you can't be disrespectful to your boss. And there was some level of disrespect that was, whether or not the disrespect was intended, it's Amy Adams Strunk did the right thing. If you can't get the respect of the coach, that's not a tenable situation. How many games in a row did Vrabel lose? 7 in a row is what he lost at the end of the 2022 season. But again, I don't blame Mike for that. I really don't. But everybody can have their personal opinions about those things. It doesn't matter. The point is, it doesn't matter anymore with that. So it's out with the old and in with the new. And so far, the new hasn't clicked yet, right? Doesn't mean that it won't. And I'm not sitting here preaching optimism because, listen, I'm as pissed as you guys are. I am really, really over the idea of watching more shitty football because I've spent the last 2 seasons watching shitty football, covering shitty football, talking to football players about them playing shitty football, all these different things. But I do think that there is a lot of stuff that people wanted to blame exclusively, or people wanted in their heads to think that the coach that was fired was the only problem here. And it's just not true, right? It's just not true. There are a lot of different things that have to be overcome here. And regardless of how this situation is going right now or how it ended in the previous season, there's a lot there that this organization, the problem, it's not like Mike Vrabel's not losing football games right now. The Titans are losing football games. Mike Vrabel was a part of the Titans. Now he's no longer a part of the Titans. So now Brian Callahan's losing football games. And there has to be the ssame energy for Brian, even though it's a different kind of situation because he's just getting his feet under him. Mike Vrabel was a first-time head coach. Brian Callahan was a first-time head coch. So Vrabel's biggest indictment was he couldn't figure out Derrick Henry until like halfway through the 2019 season. And then, of course, things clicked and it went crazy. How many of you wanted to fire Arthur Smith halfway through the 2019 season with Mariota? There is some level of patience that is required here. I don't know if Brian Callahan is going to be a better or worse coach than his predecessor. I don't know if I have no idea. All I know is 3 games is not enough, not enough of a sample size to make that determination. And to bring things back to Vrabel and even J-Rob. I know there's still some J-Rob players that are out there underperforming like Burks and NPF, but like I don't even accept the J-Rob stuff anymore. Like it's Rand and Callahan at this point. That is where you have to keep your attention focused. And frankly, you have to keep your attention focused on the Titans as an organization because ultimately it's the organization that has sucked here in the last 3 weeks, regardless or 3 years, regardless of who the different pieces are, who the players are. It's an organizational problem. And that is something that is a bit more difficult to kind of suss through, right? So anyway, let's keep it moving here. Which quarterback would you rather face on Monday Night Football? Would you rather see Skylar Thompson, who was the primary backup to Tua, or would you rather see Snoop Huntley, Tyler Huntley, who is currently their practice squad player and a player who has some NFL experience, in fact, Pro Bowl quarterback, Tyler Huntley in his past? Who would you rather face? In the comment section, let me know. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. We'll talk about it together right after I remind you about TrueMap Fitness in the Gulch. Go to TrueMapFitness.com for your first workout free as a Middle Tennessee resident. No workout ever recycled or repeated. Just the best in the business. TrueMathFitness.com for more information and that first workout free as a Middle Tennessee resident. Okay, so with everything that's going on right now, Dolphins are not in a good situation either. They're 1-2. They have a win, but things are not going well in Miami. They've got an injured starting quarterback. They've got an injured backup quarterback. And now Snoop Huntley is very much in play to start this game. Which quarterback would you rather see on Monday night, Snoop Huntley or Skylar Thompson? Because both of them are at least vying for the opportunity to start this game in just a few days from now.
And the core of the Dolphins' decision was, one, to not rush Tua back, two, not let himself rush back. You just heard Mike McDaniel discuss the process there. Tua obviously wants to play, McDaniel said, but the focus for Tua is being healthy. And so he is not on the field for a month, but he has been very active in the facility, helping the guys who are going to be on the field. And that starts with their new starting quarterback, Skylar Thompson. And he said, Thompson, that Tua has been giving him advice, answers to questions, and being a helpful sounding board for him. And new backup quarterback Snoop Huntley, who was in the building today, said Tua spent an hour with them during walkthroughs and helped them get ready for Seattle Seahawks. And as Tua gets all his healthy attention, Skylar got emotional today when I asked him about the opportunity to be a starter again. He said, I called my dad and talked to my fiance, and he said, look, my story has been one of adversity. If you know a little bit about Skylar, you know his mom and his grandfather passed away when he was 6 years old within 6 months of each other. His father raised him. He's kind of built this life and this career, overcoming people telling him he can't. And now he gets another opportunity to be out there on the field. It's the first time we've seen him since 2022. But Mike McDaniel was clear that his confidence in him and the team's confidence in him is real and earned. And he said that as a different man on that jersey than he was 2 years ago. They believe that they're going to rally behind him, and they're going to need the other star players on this team to rally around Skylar in these at least 4 games without Tua. That's where the big money guys step up. One more thing to watch, Ian. Snoop Huntley was in the building. He joked about all the speed on this offense being like Madden, and he said maybe there's a few QB draws in the middle, like he could run. That may be helpful as he learns that playbook.
So our buddy Cam Wolf of the NFL Network, speaking on the Dolphins quarterback position, that was a couple of days ago after they placed Tua on injured reserve, talking about Snoop Huntley and also Skylar Thompson at this point. Mr. Jones says Hawk Tua starting for the Dolphins. I mean, I don't know. It's tough sledding for both of these teams right now. I don't know whose situation I'd rather be in if I was the Titans or the Dolphins, because the Dolphins are again, it's like Trevor Lawrence, right? You've paid him. You've paid a lot of money. You've paid a lot of money for Tua Tagovailoa, and to have the season kind of blowed up so early on in the process on the second Thursday night football game of the year, it feels like a pretty awful place to be. It's like, would you rather be a Jags fan or a Titans fan with everything the Jags are going to? The Jags are a worse football team than the Titans are. They're both 0-3. Major Key says, so is Huntley bad? No, he's not bad. Let me pull up Snoop Huntley's Pro Football. Well, I got to stop calling him Snoop because I'll type Snoop and that's not his name. Tyler Huntley. Let's see. He did make a Pro Bowl with the Ravens. He's got he's got as many career wins as Levis does as a starting quarterback. He's got 3 career wins against 6 losses. He's thrown for less than 2,000 yards total, 8 touchdowns against 7 interceptions. But he's obviously got mobility in his bag. He is somebody who won a decent amount of games. He went 1-3 for the Ravens in 2021 when Lamar missed some time, and then he went 2-2 in 2022. He ended up making the Pro Bowl, as a matter of fact. So, again, that's probably an indictment of the Pro Bowl, but still, like, Snoop Huntley is a quarterback that can beat you in some certain ways. Shady NFL says, just joined the stream. Did Levis get benched? No, but his coach is backing him, and we're talking about the viability of could he be benched. Would it make sense to bench him after another poor performance in Miami? I'm of the opinion that it would make sense to bench him if he has another poor performance in Miami. William Jones says, can't wait to get down to the 305. If nothing else, Miami right now, maybe not the best place to visit because of the hurricane situation, but it sounds like Miami is going to avoid most of the hurricane stuff. And it's one of my favorite cities in the country. One of my college roommates lives there on Key Biscayne, so I always enjoy that part of it too. And I love the food. I love the music. I love the culture. Miami's just one of the coolest places in the world. I was there this summer. for a wedding, as a matter of fact. Got some time on South Beach. Always enjoy South Beach. So yes, for bad football, at least they are going to. At least I get to go to Miami and LA this year. But if they keep losing, I don't know if the radio station is going to want to keep paying to send me, which is also a part of the problem. Which would, I would hate it. It would make me miserable because my job is covering the football team, and if you take that away from me, then I don't know. It also hurts you as the audience. So for both of our sakes, I hope that the Titans get their shit together at some point, because I do not want to be covering from the bench a shitty football team at that point. That doesn't even make it worth it if I can't do games. So, or if I can't do road games. Obviously I would still do home games because I live 10 minutes from the stadium. Anyway, who would you rather see, Huntley or Thompson? Probably Thompson. Thompson is dealing with injury. Huntley has more ways that he can beat you, especially after the way that Malik Willis just dummied you on the ground. I would not want to see a quarterback with plus mobility. Now, the question is, who can run the offense better for the Dolphins right now, Skylar Thompson or Tyler Huntley? I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know how much mobility would play into the Dolphins' hands. It sounds like they're expecting to see Tyler Huntley because of the injury to Skylar Thompson, but the preference would be Skylar Thompson at that point. Absolutely. So with everything going on with the Titans right now, Skylar Thompson would be preferable. Tyler Huntley is more likely. No love for Tim Boyle, says Stephen King. Yeah, Tim Boyle has not done anything worth loving on him for. So yeah, hard pass on the Tim Boyle experience. Brown and Casey says, regardless, we better get our first turnover. Yeah, I mean, that's as big a problem. Here's the thing. Maybe we do another show on this tomorrow, but like, the quarterback's not the only issue that they have. They're getting no pass rush. They are not getting to the quarterback effectively. Certainly not without bringing additional pressure and blitzers. It's the most obvious thing. Honestly, it was the more obvious hole in their roster than anything. Maybe right tackle, because NPF has not been a good player. But the lack of legitimate edge rush help for Landry and Jeff and Sweat are not, Sweat's had some good snaps. Jeff has had some good snaps, but it's not been very good. In fact, it's been one of the league's worst as far as getting pressure on the quarterback. So you're I don't know if that's good news or bad news that you've got multiple issues and it's just not one thing that you can pin the problem on, but there are multiple issues with this football team right now as to why they are 0-3. So B-Bird says, did he ever circle back to the D-Hop comment? Did I miss it? No, I didn't. And here I will now. DeAndre Hopkins has said multiple times that he's still learning the offense. So my only point with that is, the only comment that I want to make to that effect is, if DeAndre Hopkins is not up to speed on the offense totally to the comfort level and satisfaction of him, the quarterback, and the coaching staff, that is your explanation for why Treylon Burks is still out snapping him. And also he's dealing with the MCL stuff. You'd rather have 75% of Hop than you would 100% of Treylon Burks. Treylon Burks has been very, very underwhelming, and knowing the offense or not, he's got to find ways to make more plays, or obviously he's going to end up not on this roster for much longer. But with Hopkins, he has said multiple times that he's still trying to learn the offense. So that's something that I would pay more attention to with why Hopkins' snap count looks the way that it does, because he did miss a couple of weeks. He was in Los Angeles getting treatment on his knee. Of course, that's completely fine if that's the thing that was best for DeAndre Hopkins. But if there's a slow burn with D-Hop, it's not just the health component of it. It's the fact that he's not totally comfortable with what they're asking him to run right now. And that can be okay too. The only problem is you can't count on Treylon Burks without DeAndre Hopkins out there. And Treylon Burks is obviously the primary backup to D-Hop at this point. Okay, rising and falling. Whose stock rose? Whose stock fell this week in sports? We will get to it together right after I remind you about Factor Meals. Factor Meals, promo code ATOZ50 for a great value, for some great nutritionists. That's not a word. I can't even say the word correctly. Either way, Factor Meals are great. They're convenient. They're healthy. Whether you're trying to lose weight, whether you're trying to change your diet, Factor Meals will get you covered. Code ATOZ50 gets you a percentage off at factormeals.com. Fresh, nutritious, satisfying, healthy eating made easy is what they offer you. Go to factormeals.com. Use that promo code ATOZ50 and get a percentage off of your first order. All right. Rising and falling. Whose stock fell? Whose stock rose this week in sports? Probably a couple of different. I'm sure there's going to be a fair amount of answers. Stock down Titans after the way that the last couple of weeks have gone. I would completely understand that assessment. Definitely stock down Denard Wilson after that defensive performance. They got plain and simple by Malik Willis. That's unacceptable. That can't happen, and it did happen, and you saw the results of that. Stock up Matt LaFleur because he made me laugh out loud. That is the clip that I would like to start with first and foremost.
Happy for our guys and proud of their effort.
You mentioned how we don't get it. I don't know. Keep going.
Whatever, keep going, keep firing away.
You mentioned how we.
They told me this city was going to burn if we came in here and won the game, so I guess it is.
You mentioned how we don't.
That's absolutely savage by Matt LaFleur. It's also hilarious. He should be the front runner for Coach of the Year. Really high level stuff that he is putting together with a backup quarterback that, for the most part, the league looked at and said, nah, I'm good, including this franchise. Looked at and said, nah, I'm good. And, I'm as impressed with Matt LaFleur because of the job that he's doing with Malik Willis. And I don't want to knock Malik Willis because Malik Willis has only taken advantage of the opportunities that he's gotten. But there is no question that Malik Willis was not capable of doing that while he was here in the first 2 years. Now, could he have been capable of doing that in this third year? Because there is obvious improvement with him under Brian Callahan's coaching staff that's quarterback specific, mechanically, footwork, progressions, checking at the line of scrimmage, all things that he was not doing in his first 2 years. You saw him doing, especially on Sunday. So stock up Matt LaFleur, stock up Malik Willis, stock down. B. French says Tom Brady. I haven't heard him do a game yet. I haven't. Titans obviously haven't been on Fox, and I don't. When I go back and watch other games, I usually don't do it with the sound on because the All-22 doesn't come with the sound. And if I'm watching other games, it's not to watch the TV copy; it's to watch specific plays. So normally I don't hear other commenters unless I go back and watch the TV copy of a Titans game. But Tom Brady hasn't gotten overwhelmingly good reviews on television just yet. Again, I haven't heard him, so I'll reserve my criticism. Curtis C says Arden Key, stock down. He's playing like he's suspended. Arden Key, like I've said, I thoroughly enjoy Arden. I wish he was a better football player. I wish he was as good a football player as he is in interview because he is certainly a great interview, but that doesn't matter if you're not producing. And, like I said, the pass rush has been poor. We'll hone in more on that pass rush later on. Probably tomorrow we can take a look at that specifically. Jags, stock down, says Puka. They are sucked into this terrible, terrible black hole of 0-3. Just 0-3 for all, or just stock down for all three of these football teams that are 0-3. There have never been, and this is a stat, I don't know if I have my handy dandy stat sheet from the NFL available for you, but I did see an interesting note from them earlier today that I highlighted on the radio show, and I'll see if I can get that for you quickly. Here we go. 30 games decided by one score, so that's 8 points or fewer this year. Most such games through week 3 in NFL history. There's 5 teams that are undefeated, 29 teams. Here's the thing that really feels like a kick in the nuts to you if you have that kind of an anatomy, perhaps, an unpleasant feeling for the female component of the audience that would be correlated to a kick in the nuts. But either way, 29 teams have at least one win this season. Since realignment in 2002, only 2 prior seasons, 2012 and 2022, had more teams register a win in the first 3 weeks of a season. And the Titans, Bengals, and Jags are not one of them. So that you have as many teams as you've ever had get a win through the first 3 weeks, and that your football team is not one of them, that's particularly depressing about the situation, because even the Carolina Panthers, the Giants, much worse teams. I do think that there's much worse teams out there than the Tennessee Titans, but those teams have a win, and this team does not. All right, that's going to do it for us tonight on the Primetime program. Thanks for hanging out here with us. 10 to 1 tomorrow on the radio show. We normally have a player on Thursdays because the week is different. We're going to have the player on Friday. Right now, it's between J.C. Latham or Jarvis Brownlee Jr. because they're going to replace Cheeto Awuzie on IR. So Jarvis Brownlee, the rookie, is going to start in Miami at this point. That will be a very tough test for whomever is playing corner because, of course, Tyreek Hill is going to be a part of that equation. And Jalen Waddle has not had a great year yet because the quarterback situation has been poor. But Jalen Waddle can also find ways to hurt you. So we will see what happens there. Have a great rest of your evening. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning on 104.5 The Zone at 10 a.m. See you guys.
Go home! Go home! Go home! You're embarrassing Nashville! Go home!